Ladies and gentlemen, hello and welcome to the first episode of a potentially ongoing series that I like to call Booking a Better Wrestler. This is actually an idea I had probably last week. I wanted to add a little extra something to the channel beyond the usual changing the questions episodes we do and the recaps. So I had an idea for a new show. I put out a question on Facebook to just some of my personal friends asking if there was one wrestler in WWE you would like to see booked differently, who would it be? And based on those responses, those are going to be my first few episodes, and then I'll ask the wider audience to see if anybody is interested in carrying this out further, and if there's any other wrestlers people would like to see done differently, and how I would handle them. So, just to give you an idea of, quote-unquote, the rules of this show, it's going to take a wrestler right now just in WWE, just because in terms of booking and in terms of character, those are the ones I'm the most in-depth with as far as my knowledge of their history, their background, things like that. We might move on to other promotions. Also, generally, I think WWE tends to make the most mistakes when booking their characters, so there's more fodder for this program. Also, there's no guarantee that I'm going to take this character and put them, and put them on the road to, a world title. There's just some wrestlers and some characters that's just not going to happen for. All I'm trying to do is make this character more interesting than they presently are on television. Also, I cannot move them to another organization, so if they're at NXT, I can't move them up or down to the main roster. I can't move them to another promotion. I can't just, shrug my shoulders and say, let him go. There's nothing else you can do. There's always something you can do. And lastly, in booking a specific character, a specific wrestler, I may also need to fantasy book additional wrestlers around them. So I might kind of kill a few birds with one stone in each of these episodes. So let's get to it. Okay. Episode number 1 is going to be on Adam Rose. Adam Rose is a guy who a few years ago had kind of a lot of momentum behind him. He debuted this new character, Full Sail, loved it. He moved up to the main roster, and it just fell flat. Currently, he is kind of stuck in this weird segment on Raw where he does this like TMZ-style recap of the show and of wrestlers called the Rose Bush. Okay, that's another thing about this the show is that I'm going to have to take the wrestlers as they are currently booked and go from there. So I'm going to have to take Adam Rose in his current form. I can't go back in time. I can't go to a hypothetical version of the way he should have been booked. I have to go with how he is now and then move forward. So that's where we're at with Adam Rose. He's barely appears in the ring. If he does, he's getting trounced. I think the last time he wrestled a match was in NXT against James Storm. He lost pretty badly. He's just kind of floating around in nothingness, and he just has this segment called the Rose Bush that it just seems like it's kind of the last gasp for him because they're just out of ideas for the guy. So here's what I do. Okay, people have commented for a while that they would like to see Adam Rose transition back to his original character. His original kind of modern NXT character, Leo Kruger, who was a South African bounty hunter. People would like to see him kind of go back to that. He kind of played this creepy guy, and he would stalk wrestlers, and had kind of a very quick and brutal offense that I liked, but a lot of people backstage said that they didn't like the character, or that Adam Rose was too nice of a guy to play like a psychopath or something like that. I personally think that getting him back on that track is going to be the best thing for him because they're just completely out of gas with the Adam Rose character. So here's how you do that. Okay, he has this weekly segment he calls the Rose Bush, and he looks at a few different wrestlers and makes some really crappy jokes, and it's bad and it's terrible, but let's play off of that. Let's work with this. So say you do a segment of the Rose Bush, and he brings up a wrestler, let's say that he has at least some sort of history with, we'll say Neville. He wrestled Neville a few times in NXT. So he mentioned something about Neville. Neville's also got this really bad storyline that the Miz is trying to take him under his wing and make him a Hollywood guy or some crap like that. So let's go with that because Rose Bush is a TMZ ripoff. Adrian Neville, is working with Miz and like some weird Hollywood sub-storyline, so let's go with that. So Adam Rose brings up the fact that Neville's trying to work with The Miz and maybe make some bad joke on that and then end the segment, and that's fine. And then each week you do this Rosebush segment and you have him do a couple things, but as time goes by, he dedicates more and more of this segment to Adrian Neville. For some reason, to Neville. Whatever, I'm going to make that mistake. You're just going to have to live with it. He keeps dedicating more and more of that segment to Neville. So, first it starts off that he just makes a flippant comment at the end, and then he makes a comment and then kind of throws his own personal opinion on Neville. And then it gets to the point where, like, half the segment is just dedicated to Neville. And then the whole segment is just dedicated to Neville, just talking about, like, Neville's personal life and just getting really unhinged as far as his thoughts and his feelings, and it's getting very obvious that he has some sort of obsession with Neville. And then beyond that, the accoutrement of the Rosebush is starting to break down. Like the set piece is going away, or it's just a blank screen, or he's in just a dark room. The graphic is gone. He's starting to get more and more unhinged as far as his appearance goes. He loses the glasses. His hair becomes unkempt. He starts to let a beard grow out. His eyes get baggy and washed. And it just goes to the point where it transitions from, oh, here's this supposed socialite character doing some sort of weird TMZ spin, to this guy is just obsessed with Neville. And we don't necessarily know why until, you can do it on a pay-per-view, you can do it on a Raw. But it gets to the point where Neville's out for a match, and Rose just ambushes him as violently as you can get for the PG era. So you're obviously limited. We can't do blood. We can't do, any sort of really serious weapon attack, but he beats him up with a chair. Backstage would be better for this, not even during a match. He beats him with a chair, throws him against the door, just crushes him, just beats the tar out of him. Neville never sees it coming and puts him out of action for a few weeks. It doesn't need to be a long time, maybe a week, maybe two. And during this time, people, somebody catches up to Adam Rose, Tom Phillips or whatever backstage interviewer was like, Adam, what the hell happened to you? What was that attack on Neville that was completely uncalled for? And Adam just kind of stares him down and goes, who's Adam? And then he just smiles in that way that Leo Kruger used to, but he doesn't use the name yet, and he just kind of wanders off. Come back the next week, and then he's booked for a match. Adam Rose comes out, no music whatsoever. When the announcer calls him Adam Rose, he's kind of looks confused, like he doesn't know what's going on. Book him against a jobber or just some low-level guy. Kalisto would be a good one, sure. And have Rose just run through him, just smashes him with all of Leo Kruger's old moves. The slice, uses the London Dungeon knockoff that he used for a submission. Just no sign of Adam Rose anymore, not even in an ironic way like he was doing before. The party pooper thing is gone. The music is gone. Everything about this man is just stripped away, and there's just a skeleton left. And then when he beats Kalisto, that's when he can get on the microphone, cut his promo, and he reintroduces himself to the audience like he's never been here before. He says, let me introduce myself. My name is Leo Kruger. And he goes back to that South African accent that he used to have. And then you're off to the races from there. Next week after that, he comes out for another match. That's when Neville comes out, gets his revenge. Those two brawl to the back. It gets really rough. It gets really dirty. And then that's the jumping off point. That's the starting point for Adam Rose and his quote-unquote new Leo Kruger persona. Goes from there, and then in backstage interviews or vignettes, you can kind of flesh out his story a little bit more, and then you can have announcers kind of bring up the fact, like, wait a minute, that's who he was in NXT, that's what he called himself before Adam Rose appeared. Like, let's not pretend that never happened. Really try and sell the fact that this is just a crazy, unhinged dude who clearly has multiple personalities, and this is who's in charge now. And I think by tying him to Neville, not only do you give Neville something to do, rather than just his crappy gimmick, you get him away from the dumpster fire of wrestling known as The Miz, you get him into something interesting. You get these two into a feud that, while it's not for a belt and nobody's really moving up or nobody's really challenging for a title, it still lends importance to these characters, and it lends importance to the things they're doing, as opposed to just wrestling for the sake of wrestling. These two know each other, they're comfortable with each other, they have a good chemistry in the ring from the matches they've had before, and from there you can branch it out for him going to other characters that maybe he ran into in NXT. If Sami Zayn moves up, you go after him, things like that, and just have him get really dirty and dark with it, to the point where he is just almost kind of make him WWE's version of King Cuerno, where he's just stalking a guy and he just wants to beat this person down and potentially put them out permanently for sport, essentially. I think that would be a good direction to take him in. It seems like they kind of are done with the Adam Rose character anyway, so you might as well just go whole hog with it and let him get a little mean. And I think it would be good for Adam Rose too, as a performer, because, you know, when he got done with the Leo Kruger thing, he decided that he kind of totally needed to reinvent himself and do something the complete opposite of what he was. And now it's getting to the point where that's not working anymore. He can reverse that polarity again. And I think it'll add a freshness to him and to the people he's working with. So that's going to wrap it up for this episode. Let me know what you think. Be sure to like, comment, subscribe, leave a review if you're catching this on iTunes. Be sure to leave feedback. You can send us questions, comments, any potential ideas for future episodes of this or Changing the Questions or anything else. You can email us at changingthequestions@gmail.com. You can check us out on Twitter at changingtheqs. That's at changingtheqs. You can look us up on YouTube, on Facebook. We're on all those places. We really want to hear your feedback. We're interested in what everybody has to say about this or topics for future episodes. And that's going to wrap it up for me. I am Paul Laporte. Thank you so much. And see you soon. Bye.